Collateral Beauty is a really stupid movie. I know a lot of people out there will defend this movie and say that it's deep and intellectual, but unfortunately for them, that is just not the case. It attempts to be a heartfelt movie about grief and trauma, with a little added twist onto it to make it seem smart, but it just comes across as confusing and sloppy. It should be no surprise to anybody with a brain that this movie makes absolutely no sense, but there's also a lot of idiots out there, so I'm making this video as sort of a public service. On the surface, this movie tries to pass itself off as a melodramatic Oscar-caliber movie, when in reality, it's just pretentious garbage starring famous people. They cram like 8 super talented actors into this movie, all of whom are in service to the terrible script. This movie really beats you over the head with its messages about acceptance of death and all that shit, but at the end of the day, it just left me frustrated and pissed off, mainly because of the lack of logic in its conclusion. I don't normally organize videos in a way where I separate different aspects of the film in a list, but in order to fully explain why this movie is so dumb, it's basically what I'm gonna have to do. Number 1, the premise. The plot for this movie, as cheesy as it is pretty simple. Will Smith lost his daughter when she was 6, and it's left him emotionally devastated and depressed for like 3 years. But he's also the boss of some marketing firm, and his mental state has started to drive his company into the ground. So his 3 closest business associates and friends, who also coincidentally have their own personal tragedies, decide that they basically need to show that he is unfit to run the company so they can sell it to a big investor and all make a bunch of money. And the way they decide to do that is to hire a private investigator who discovers that Will Smith's character has been writing letters to love, time, and death, which are all superficial constructs, but I mean, you know, whatever helps him sleep, I guess. Their genius idea is to hire 3 actors to play the roles of those constructs and convince them that he needs to move on, I guess? At the same time, there's another subplot where Will Smith slowly convinces himself to go to a support group for people who lost their kids to sickness. And he interacts with this lady, and it all seems pretty convoluted until you figure out its significance to the main plot, which I'll get into later. Throughout the movie, the actors try to interact with Will Smith, but he's so standoffish and depressed that he basically just tries to run away anytime they talk to him. There's not really a whole lot else going on in this movie besides the pointless depth given to the supporting cast, which I guess we should talk about. Number 2, the cast. So you've got Will Smith, who is grieving and driving his bike directly into oncoming traffic in his free time. Somebody hit him! Hit him with your car! Another main character in this movie is Edward Norton's character, who is basically just sad because he's a loser and he lives with his mom because he cheated on his wife and ruined his marriage, which his 10-year-old daughter is justifiably upset about, so he's trying to reconnect with her, I guess. Why are we wasting time with this? There's also another subplot where Michael Peña's character has cancer again, and he hasn't told anyone else about it, and that's just kind of forced into the movie. Oh, and Kate Winslet wants kids? Yeah, that's about as deep as that character arc goes.
Are you gonna make a good mom one day?
Yeah.
This is what I mean when I say people see more depth in this movie than is actually present. Everyone has relatable and surface-level problems that just detract from the main focus of the story, which should be Will Smith getting better, right? That and all the stupid symbolism they try to blow your mind with. They don't even attempt to try to give any characterization to the actors besides tiny little things like Helen Mirren's character wants to be an actress because she's an actress. I mean, she seems like she genuinely wants to help Will Smith, but that could also just be her way of getting into character. I don't know. Keira Knightley's character is the only rational one in the movie who sees how dumb and futile the entire exercise is and is constantly questioning the logic of the whole situation. Kind of like any rational person would with a functioning brain. But then Edward Norton's character won't stop hitting on her, so that kind of cheapens it all and just makes it really weird and creepy.
Can I kiss you?
You don't have to sexualize it.
I can kiss you without sexualizing it.
The third of the actors that they hire is played by a kid named Jacob Lattimore, who seems pretty talented even though he has next to nothing to do in this movie. I like the part where he fell off his skateboard and didn't even act hurt. That was unintentionally pretty funny.
You got something you want to say?
Like, come on. The acting in this movie is pretty bad at times, especially from Will Smith. Like, the guy is supposed to be grieving, but he keeps making these goofy-ass faces, and I just can't help but laugh at them, which I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to do during a dramatic scene. All these actors have proven to be incredibly talented in the past, but when you put good actors in a movie with a shitty script, then they just kind of suck through transitive property. Actors need something substantial to work with to deliver a good performance. Even Daniel Day-Lewis couldn't deliver these shitty lines. Another stinker worth pointing out is Naomi Harris, but I'm gonna blame this one on the filmmakers because she's a great actress. I mean, Moonlight came out the same year as this movie, and she got nominated for a fucking Oscar in that role. But in this movie, her fake American accent is so cringy and awful, and her acting, it just sucks.
Exactly.
What the hell kind of laugh was that? What the hell was that? What was that? I don't blame any of the actors for how awful they are in this movie. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're fully aware of how stupid the whole thing is. They try to hide it so much in interviews, and even though Will Smith may use the story that he, channeled his emotions through the story of the movie as a way to emotionally deal with the death of his father in real life, it's painfully obvious that they're just bullshitting their way through every interview. Nobody wants to talk about how stupid the movie is, so they just talk about the emotions in the story and how great it was to work with the other actors. As shitty as their acting may be in the movie, the real acting comes in the interviews. These people are pros.
I feel like the movie's about lots of people struggling and feeling blocked, and I think that what he comes up, this idea he comes up with is to me, it's sort of comically desperate. He's so desperate, they're so desperate that they do something that's almost silly. It's so unlikely, and I think we all felt that it was important that you can sense that they're not doing this out of true, in a negative. They're not trying to hurt him. They're trying.
Or anything.
Yeah, they just.
Every character in this movie is either a selfish ass or a bland paper plate, and at no point did it ever make me feel genuine sympathy for any of them. Like, the main focus of the movie is about a guy grieving his dead daughter, and never once do I feel bad for him. Like, yeah, it sucks that your kid died, but you should do your job, or quit, if all you're gonna do is build dominoes all day. Everyone else just seems like they're trying to get some personal gratification out of the things they do to supposedly support Will Smith, so I don't feel bad for them either, because they're just shitty people.
His kid died.
And the Oscar goes to Kate Winslet.
Number 3, the cinematography and editing. This is kind of a little part of the gripes I have with this film, but they're worth mentioning anyways. The cinematography in this movie kind of sucks, like, a lot. Most of the dialogue is just done in reverse shot, which is fine, I guess, but all the wide angles and establishing shots just look really awkward and unfocused. Not like they're blurry or anything, but I mean that the camera movement never seems to be motivated by the character. It just kind of moves. And the composition in a lot of wide shots is just awful and ugly. The editing is awkward and jolting. Scenes end in strange places where they either linger on too long or end too early. It just makes the viewing experience uncomfortable for the viewer, even if it's just subconscious. Look at this scene of Edward Norton and Kate Winslet talking. Just watch the progression of the shots. All these angles are so awkward, and it seems like the director of photography just didn't give a shit. And watch this cut right here.
A woman who looks like a Mormon grandmother, and it makes her very good at the whole stealth thing.
Who hired the woman who caused her divorce?
No.
What the hell was that? Not only is the direction lazy, but the script is so stupid it makes me want to rip my hair directly out of my head. Number 4, the script. The film cuts back between Will Smith being depressed and his colleagues staging these encounters with the time, love, and death actors, so it all seems pretty straightforward, but like I said before, there's a lot of people who claim this movie is so smart that normies like me can't understand it, which is not the case at all.
Well, my 2 cents worth of an opinion, let's just say the film proved too deep for most people. That's why the whole lot of movie-going slobs filled up 50 Shades Darker cinema foyer than that of Collateral Beauty, which I prefer to watch. It was a beautiful film made for an ugly, even dumber, and unappreciative world.
Great film. I think it got bad reviews because the film made you think, and people these days don't want to do that.
I disagree with most people commenting. I think the film is rife with symbolism, and that allows us to recognize a deeper meaning. I don't think it is a coincidence that Wit initially discovers Amy.
There are shows like Mr. Robot or Wilfred that can get away with having an unreliable narrator because they leave subtle hints as to the reality of the situation, despite what the main character is showing. Collateral Beauty kind of forgets to do that, and in the process ruins the entire twist ending. I'm gonna spoil the ending, by the way. Without doing so, I can't properly explain why this movie is so dumb and fake smart. There are two twists in the movie, one of which is considerably dumber than the other. The first twist is that this lady who keeps telling Will Smith about how her daughter died from a rare form of cancer is actually Will Smith's wife, and the twist is that he forgot who she was in his grief, and she eventually became a stranger to him. So at the end, it's revealed that their dead kids that they've been talking about are actually the same dead kid, and that they're both grieving the same kid. Honestly, that twist is kind of set up in a way where it doesn't bother me a whole lot. Like, there's foreshadowing with the letter and stuff like that. So whenever this happens in the movie, I wasn't really that upset by it because it was so blatantly obvious. That particular twist didn't really affect me emotionally at all. It's such a minor part of the story that I was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize that trauma could make you forget entire people that you were literally in love with for years, especially in a 3-year period. Like, how long was it after the incident in Manchester by the Sea that Casey Affleck meets up with his wife again? I mean, he doesn't have trouble remembering her, but he's pretty visibly traumatized, so how is it that Will Smith forgot an entire person in this movie? Like, how do you not recognize her? Do you have some sort of condition where you don't recognize people's faces? She even introduces herself as if they don't know each other, but she knows him the whole time, right?
What's your name?
I'm Madeline. Nice to meet you.
Like, what? I mean, it's not the worst twist, but it was handled pretty awfully. Then there's another big twist which single-handedly ruins the entire film. The twist is that apparently the actors are like angels or ghosts or something, and they're not really there. They're not real people. Which raises, like, I don't know, 1,000 questions, starting with, are you fucking kidding me? There's a scene early on in the movie where Will Smith's friends hire these actors with an actual dollar exchange of money to portray the constructs he's writing letters to.
Okay, we'll do it. 20,000 each.
It's portrayed very literally and straightforward. So, how are they not real? Like, what? Like, Edward Norton first notices Keira Knightley's character at a casting call for something at their marketing firm. Why would she be there if she wasn't trying to get a job? Is that the movie saying, like, oh, it's fate that they met because he was at a marketing firm that was having a casting call, and she was at that casting call because she's playing an angel on Earth? This isn't touched by an angel. You can't get away with that. At one point, Keira Knightley's character says she's working on several different projects. So what does that mean? Does that mean she's spiritually guiding 3 other people? Like, she's a busy angel? I thought the whole point is that they're all struggling actors who are put in a strange position to help a grieving man. I mean, she even objects to it because she morally disagrees with it. But the movie just seems to completely forego everything that was set up in that story when they had this big reveal scene in the 3rd act. This fucking scene is so moronic and incomplete that it broke my brain. So I just watched the movie Collateral Beauty, and what the fuck was that? What was that ending? So basically the whole movie, they kind of set up this thing where, like, Edward Norton, Michael Pena, and Kate Winslet are, like, hiring these actors. And so it seems like that's how they're going about the whole movie. So they go, they talk to him, he has his whole emotional cathartic release. Then there's a scene where they show him footage of him yelling at no one, and it's like, what? Wait, what? So did you, like, there's video footage of them talking to him, but they're not in the video? Did you CGI them out of the video? Are they not in it? So were the people real or were they not real? The whole premise of the movie is that they pay these actors money to play these characters to help him come to terms with it, but then he just comes to terms with it because that's not how the movie sets it up. They set it up so that it's not like that. You can't make a twist like that if the twist doesn't make any sense. Like, the twist in Fight Club makes sense because the hints have been there the whole movie. What the fuck does any of that mean? What was that? What were you trying to say? Like, they literally just didn't write it caliber of that. I saw the. I guess the movie just any part they all just it's just over. Wow, this doesn't matter if but I didn't realize it was that nonsensical. What? I'm so fucking confused. It's so stupid. It doesn't make any sense. I'm going hysterical. I'm literally going hysterical because of how dumb that movie was. Wow. I'm just genuinely oppressed at its stupidity. That was just awful. I literally went back and rewatched it right after I finished the movie to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I didn't. It's just bad writing and editing. Like, there's footage of Will Smith yelling at nobody, which the private investigator lady is shown to be filming. But I thought that the way that the movie set her character up is that it was obvious that she was in on it, and she's just recording what happens to show the main crew. I was so genuinely confused when they revealed this twist that I was convinced they had somehow CGI'd out the characters in the video in the universe of the movie in order to convince Will Smith that he was nuts. I tried to rationalize something that the screenwriter didn't even bother to try to explain. It comes so far out of left field that it just disoriented me to the point where I was in hysterics. I know some people will be like, well, duh, what about the part where the kid asks who he's talking to? Obviously, that was foreshadowing.
Who's that man talking to? He looks kind of weird.
Don't worry about that. Sometimes people are silly.
Okay, yeah, the lady that he's with is the private investigator, which I assumed was part of the act. Was that not part of the scene? Was the kid not in on it the whole time? The little part with the kid is supposed to convince Will Smith that he's hallucinating, when in reality he's actually not, because the actors are real people and not angels. But then the movie just decides that he is hallucinating. Because... movie. They wanted to have a twist so bad that they completely avoided using any sort of connecting logic to make it happen. I want to talk about the TV show Wilfred for a second because I think it perfectly illustrates how to pull off a concept like this. So, by the way, I'm going to spoil the ending of that show, so if you haven't seen all 4 seasons of Wilfred, please just skip to this part of the video because it's worth watching for yourself. Trust me. The whole premise of the show Wilfred is that Elijah Wood's character Ryan is a suicidal, depressive, manic man who hallucinates his neighbor's dog as a grown man in a dog suit. Haven't we all been there? One of the main factors driving the story of that show is that the audience is never really sure if Wilfred is real or not until, spoilers, the real Wilfred dog dies and Ryan succumbs to his insanity, realizing that he was in fact just crazy the whole time, and that Wilfred was a construct of his brain. It works in the context of the show because Ryan is constantly questioning the reality of his situation, often getting into tight spots in an attempt to learn the truth. Many fans can argue about whether or not Ryan just being crazy was the best way to explain that particular ending, but the point I'm making is that throughout the whole story, the audience can get invested in that mystery because of the way it's written and portrayed. In Collateral Beauty, there's no ambiguity or mystery except for what they pretend to reveal at the end. There's no connecting logic like in Wilfred to help the story come to that conclusion. It simply happens because the script says it does. And honestly, it's completely unnecessary. This goddamn boardroom scene is the one scene that could actually fix this movie. Instead of revealing to Will Smith that he's crazy and that he was yelling at nobody, despite the fact that his friends literally spoke to and interacted with these supposed ghosts, they should reveal that the people he was yelling at were hired actors and they were just trying to help. That should be when Will Smith realizes the error of his ways and has a cathartic realization instead of just, oh shit, I guess I am crazy. Huh, go figure. The plotline gets a satisfying payoff in that version and the movie feels more complete. It should be about his friends and him reconciling when he realizes what they went through to help him come to that reveal, not just displaying to him that he's insane. That's such a fucked up thing to do. Like, yeah, they obviously look like they feel bad about it, but like, fuck you guys suck. You know, even without all of that, you could still explain the ghost twist by removing the scenes where they try to use logic against these people and weigh the moral pros and cons of the situation, and even accept money for it. The ghost of Christmas Past never looked at Ebenezer Scrooge and was like, you know, I'm actually just a dude in a bedsheet, not a ghost, LOL. Because that's established as the logic of the story. Simply having a twist you can't explain does not make a movie deep. It does not make a movie smart, and it does not justify making an entire crappy movie around it. That is why Collateral Beauty is a dumb waste of time. It is filled with emotional manipulation, and its script is so messy and convoluted that it actually killed some of my brain cells while watching it. Even if you ignore all the dumb twists at the end, the movie is so stale and bland, it feels like an episode of a Hallmark TV show where the lead writer is a bag of Xanax. Critics rightfully shit all over this movie, and like I said, there's a lot of idiots out there, and they all have internet connections. I doubt anyone will remember this movie in like 5 years, but I think it's worth bringing up. It had the appearance of an Oscar bait film, but the only thing it caught was just garbage floating on the surface of the lake. In conclusion, you are not smarter for watching this movie. The filmmakers are not geniuses, and this movie is in no way deep. It's so disgustingly pretentious that it feels like they spent more time trying to impress the audience than actually address the issues presented in the film. Even though every scene is shot reverse shot of actors explaining stupid and cheesy dialogue, blatantly beating you over the head with the film's messages, it still feels like an empty moral center. Like there must have been an actual emotional connection somewhere in an early draft of the script, but it got lost in the presentation of the movie. That, or the screenwriter is just a fucking hack. Collateral Beauty is almost as mind-numbingly manipulative as Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, a much more frustrating film that I'll cover at a later date. There are movies like 50-50 that can treat dark subject matter like this well, and even make the audience feel something real by the end of it. Collateral Beauty does not do this. It just pissed me off. I hope all the actors enjoyed all the money they got for starring in this tax write-off. It should be noted that the screenwriter has a resume full of equally stupid films, so it shouldn't come as a surprise when the next movie he makes sucks just as hard as this one. Hey, Will Smith, can you please just retire by this point? Every movie you've made since and including Men in Black 3 has been a stinker, and we're just sick of it. Stop saying yes to these terrible movies. God. Okay. Alright, let's edit this shit. Hello?
Is this Greg Phipps?
Yeah?
Well, I'm an agent from Hollywood, and I just wanted to say I loved your video on Collateral Beauty, and I think you've got what it takes to write the next big movie starring everyone's favorite Fresh Prince, Will Smith.
Wait, what are you talking about? I haven't even edited the video yet. I just recorded the narration.
It doesn't matter. Is it a yes or a no? Are you in?
Okay, sure, I guess, if I can have creative control.
On one condition, however, the studio wants the movie to just be 2 hours of Will Smith crying directly into a camera. Are you okay with that? Hello? Are you still there?